Welcome to A Reader's Paradise for book lovers, audiobook listeners, writers, and for everyone who loves a great story. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Reader's Paradise. We truly have a wonderful guest for this episode that I know you're going to enjoy listening to. Our guest today is a published author of more than 15 novels. She's also a speaker. She is been in the business a long time, and she's going to be a great resource for you to listen to and learn from. Tameka, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
I'm an author, also a publisher, and I curate literary events and created Black Writers Weekend.
So tell us a little bit more about Black Writers Weekend.
Let's see. Black Writers Weekend is a brainchild of mine that I kind of had this idea of creating events centered around books that was just more than just a book signing. Really just creates this all-around experience of getting to know your favorite author past reading their stories.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So now you are also, you mentioned that you're the author of several novels. And so I'm going to ask you a writer's question. And so okay, it's okay, it's safe. So the first writer's question I have for you is a real common one, and that is, how long does it take for you to write a book?
Well, it's different for me now because now I have so many other responsibilities, and I took on so many additional roles in the publishing industry, from publishing other people to mentoring to launch producing events to even stepping into film. So writing for me now takes a long time. I've been writing on Sugar Hill, which comes out this fall, for a year. In that story, and also with my own personal headspace, just making sure that the story is good. But when I first started in this industry over 10 years ago, it took me 3 weeks, right? 6 weeks. I'm hoping that I get to give that space of just really creating about the other responsibilities of being an author or even an entrepreneur. So it's taken me a little bit more time, unfortunately.
So let me ask you this other writer's question. When you want to sit down and write a book with your ideas, how do you get your ideas to come up with the story that you want to tell? Where do you pull your inspiration from?
Well, see, I'm an emotionally driven creator, so my inspiration on my story is really freestyle through the whole entire process. And I pull from life experiences or things I've seen, known, heard, or some things that are relatable. And so I saw it kind of tell itself and take a direction on its own. Granted, I had this generalized plot and this overall message that I want to convey within the story, but when it really gets to developing the story itself and how it's going to turn, I allow it to take a turn on its own. And I never know what direction it's really going to go. But my life in itself, even my friends, my family, and things they go through, I pull from that just to make sure that my story seems more real, more relatable. I can't write a fairy tale. My romances and my circumstances and my stories are real life. So that's what makes it a little bit more, relatable and a page turner.
So writing that real life fiction, that realism that is in your fiction, that happens in life, is you're kind of like your zone of genius that you write in. And and you and I share that commonality, because I have a tendency to write that way as well. And so I always say that all writing, even creative writing, is a argument that the writer is looking to try to wrestle with or try to come up with an answer to. Because as we go through life, there are things that happen that we do not anticipate. And as I like to say, life will hit you in your mouth and dare you to get up.
Yep, it really, really does.
And so
it really does. And
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
And when life really does, and for me as a creator, I process these situations. I'm able to even grab how I reacted to the past situation and how I got through that. So even those when life kind of throw you those hiccups, it does really make you stronger mentally, physically, spiritually, all that jazz. So you kind of have to take the punches sometimes.
So speaking on that, with life giving you hiccups, I know I've had my fair share of, punches to the mouth, that life throws me. And,
Right.
I have, I have a formula that I try to, go through, or steps that I go through when something really particular that I did not see coming or did not expect, that I try to do a mental process of, how I'm going to deal with it. And sometimes when I do that, it ends up in my writing somehow. So for example, one of the things that I had to do was become a caregiver for a parent. And that was a turn that I did not see coming, and I was not prepared for it. But I know that it's a common human experience that a lot of people have to go through, or may have to go through, in one form or another. And it's one of those things that, as you say, makes you stronger, and it redefines who you are. And so that was just one of my things. Is there anything in your life that you went through that, where life knocked you down and dared you to get back up, and you got back up stronger? And did any of that end up in any of your writing?
Absolutely. My whole beginning starts a little, dim. It's not like an exciting upbringing. I grew up loved and things like that, but I also experienced a lot of tragedy and a lot of things being taken away. I also didn't grow up pretty, with a lot of finances either. We kind of struggled a lot, but we made it through. A lot of those things that I went through, they really convey or transfer into my characters. With some of my female leads, they don't do the predictable responses of what a woman would normally do, because I didn't really cry a lot when I was younger. My female leads are normally kind of strong or very passive, or because I was a young mother, or I even had to take care of my mother very young until she passed away. A lot of my characters, they deal with loss, and their loss, and I show how they're able to transition out of that, and I even show how they forgot about the grieving part, and then they forgot about the healing part, and they're walking around broken. So I have definitely taken a lot of my own life's tragedies, joys, pains, triumphs, and all of that, and place it into my books, because my pain can't be in vain. I can't have shared these tears or lost these friends and families and loved ones, and I don't share what I got from it. Or if I see someone going through the similar thing, showing them how, hey, it could be worse. This could happen, that could happen. Or even granted, this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
And so then what? So, life is just going to continue to just throw you some things, and you got to find a way to keep rocking with it and rolling with it, and find a way to laugh on accident, because life is life. It's going to happen,
You just dropped a lot of knowledge bombs there, which is absolutely wonderful. One of the things that I'm latching on to is that people forget how to grieve, or they forget the process or the stages, of going through stuff. And I personally believe that one of the reasons people read is to gain insight from a writer who has gone through a similar thing, or maybe even not a similar thing, just for their own, knowledge, and learning how to empathize with a particular situation or social condition, or whatever the case may be. You also say that, you did not come up, wealthy. And I think that's for, a majority of Americans who don't come up, with the silver spoon in their mouths. But what I like to say is, people who have to really, really work for everything, it builds them in a different way, as opposed to someone who had everything handed to them. Because it's the old saying, it's like, when you work for something and you spend your own money on it, you appreciate it a heck of a lot better than if someone just handed it to you. Would you agree with that?
I'll totally get my own daughter to understand that, who is 16 now. So, I'm struggling. They don't really get it. Life hasn't happened to her yet.
Oh, keep living, man.
Oh
Because at
my
16, you
gosh.
know everything, right?
Oh, you know everything. Well, for her, she really doesn't want to grow up. That's the thing. Like, she's the complete opposite. Like, she doesn't want to grow up and explore. And I want her to understand that, because she's seen me do this all on my own, but she's also seen me make my own dreams come true. And I have to remind her that, although, yes, your mama has a lot of hiccups and a lot of struggles and a lot of pain and a lot of death has happened around her, like, in spite of all of that, look at the other things that she has done. At a very young age, I said I wanted to do a certain thing, and I went and did that. And I said I wanted to live a certain place, and I went and did that. And I did it on my own. So regardless if you want to grow up or not, regardless if you're afraid of what life is going to throw you, it's coming. It's coming anyway. So you're going to be afraid of what's coming, or you're just going to prepare for what's coming, but laugh along the way, like enjoy people along the way, love these people along the way, and, see the world along the way. Like, life is going to happen, and it just is what it is.
And that is so true. And in that vein, I want to ask you something, because it sounds like you're the type of person that has a lot of mantras or a lot of sayings or things that you live by, or rules that you live by, or even philosophies that you live by. So do you have a favorite success quote that has gotten you through a tough time, or something that's just your mantra that you just live by?
The only thing that I really live by is, I want to be happy. I choose to be happy. And I know for a fact that if the things that I really so desire, the things I want to see and experience, if they do not come true, it's my fault. And I'm willing to go above and beyond to have that joy, to have that unconventional story that I can tell my grandchildren about the places I went and saw and seen, and people that I met, and the stories I was able to tell. Though I'm willing to go through the sacrifices and the trials and years and the loss of friends and all these things. I'm willing to go that route to get the joys that I want, because I choose my happiness. I was born here alone. I'm going to pass on my own. And at the end of the day, I have to have my own back. I'm an individual. My temple is my temple. My spirit is my spirit. I'm an individual. And then within that process, and I know that, so I don't want it to get confused, or people don't understand that I want to be extremely selfish, but sometimes it's okay to be selfish. You can find a way to love your family. You can find a way to love your spouse and give them parts of you, but also still be able to have those things that make you happy be a priority. And for me, I'm going to have my happiness be a priority as well. That's just what I live by. I choose to be happy.
That is absolutely wonderful, because there are so many people in the world who don't know how to be happy, or even know what brings them joy. Some people get stuck in the cycle of depression, or the cycle of I can't do it, or I can't make it, or why even try. And here you are telling us your story, that as the example you're setting for your young daughter, and you're saying, in spite of circumstances, in spite of not having, that silver spoon, if you will, that you, through your sheer determination and effort to find your happiness, have been able to achieve, a remarkable level of success for yourself. And also, you're quietly setting an example for your daughter, which I think is just wonderful. And also to the larger community, through your work, you're setting an example for your readers. Let me ask you this question. What do you have anything that a reader who has read your work has come up to you and expressed to you in gratitude and love for writing a particular book, or a particular character, or about a particular subject, that has transformed you, surprised you, or made you say, I'm so glad you got that, because that's the thing that I was trying to convey?
The book that has consistently done that is a romance story that I told, called The Worst I Didn't Say. And it's actually one of my most favorite stories that I've ever written, because I love the expression of love. I love the
And I love the title,
Thank
by the
you.
way. I love the title of
Thank
that, The
you.
Words I Didn't Say, because there's so many relationships that people get into, and there are things that you need to say, but you may not fully
Right.
know how to express them and have them come over, because you can say something and people hear something differently. And so,
Not only that, it's the bigger message with the words I didn't say is they were stubborn, and they were fearful of happiness, or like of the idea of it working, or the idea of just being hurt in general. So they wanted to control the process of their love. They wanted to control their experience with one another. And what people have consistently told me once they finished that book was they confess their regrets about a love that they lived in their life, and they express that to me. And my response always is to that is, do you, if you feel some type of openness or incompleteness, why not say that to them? And I don't know if those conversations were completed, but a lot of them vowed to complete that. And then I felt like my job was done. Even if one person in the world that and nobody else, I feel like that story did its job and it served its purpose. Even if I didn't live by example myself, I felt like my whole goal was to get people to start loving on purpose and freely. Like it's like it's gonna be okay. Like sometimes love don't last forever, but the possibility of not experiencing, like for me, like I'm more fearful of that. I want to at least experience it. If I lose it, at least I can say I did it.
Yeah, that is so wonderful, because that is an area of the human experience, at least here in the United States, that we have a tendency to, how do I say it? Love is love, but
Lie.
yeah, we lie about it, we twist it, we pervert it, we do all sorts of things to love. Go ahead.
We have a representation of ourselves. Like we're not our true self in the very beginning. And it also deals with the lack of how we actually really physically communicate. Majority of our communication is nonverbal. So how are we really getting to know somebody if we're not actually physically getting to know, like in person, like talking, like actually courting one another, or picking up the phone and actually having conversations? I think that we have forgotten about that huge piece when it comes to getting to know somebody.
Yeah, courting somebody.
And actually really right, and courting and interlining you guys' energies. Like there's a process to getting to know someone, and I think we forgot about that part. So that book, The Words I Didn't Say, has started those conversations.
Yeah, and speaking of that, let's take a quick moment here and let's listen to an excerpt from The Words I Didn't Say. The Words I Didn't Say, a novel by Tameka Newhouse. Chapter 1. Before Their Souls Said Goodbye. I've been so many places in my life and time. I've sung a lot of songs and made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life in stages with 10,000 people watching. But we're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you, Donny Hathaway. I studied her face as Donny's voice crooned through the night's air. The song fit perfectly with how I was feeling right now. She was the perfect woman, the perfect wrong for me. I was wrong myself, and I knew that. Selfish in so many ways that I expected her to accept my faults in spite of her pain. She loved me and I loved her, and tonight I wanted to express just how much. She was so beautiful, young, vibrant, and wounded just as I smiled slightly and focused in on her eyes. She sat there, only mere inches away from my lips, and breathed in deep. I laughed a little because she could be so dramatic at times. She loved hard, and I loved that about her. But I loved hard too, and that scared me to death, because I only had loved once, and that didn't work out. Don't compare me to her. don't compare me with your past. I can't win the battle because it's already done. But I can win your future. Janet would beg me often just to be in the moment. I leaned towards her, our noses pressed against each other. I matched her breathing and hummed, I love you. Her eyes became glossy. Her body grew tense, and she was beginning to fight that feeling again. Love. We both fought love. She once told me, I don't wish to fight my feelings for you. I just can't help it. I had planned this night out perfectly. In one of the most beautiful hotels in downtown Atlanta, the best food, the prettiest rose petals covered the floor, the brightest candles in our room, and set the mood with Donny Hathaway. I had done things like this before to woo a woman, but Janet was different. I love you, baby, I told her again. Her tears were evident as she challenged herself to look at me head on. Her face was solemn. She seemed at peace. I waited 29 years for someone like you, for someone to get me, and here you are. It's surreal, you know, for me to love you, she whispered. I studied her words as I always did. Yes, baby, I know. Things like this don't last forever. Things like this only happen in the movies, she added. Stop fighting me. I sat down my glass of wine and placed my hand on her shoulders, forcing her body to face mine and to stare me head on. I gave her a slight shake. Baby, stop fighting me. Why not fight, Denham? Why just allow these feelings to build? We're allowing them to build. Into what? I dropped my hands into my lap, leaned forward, and examined her question. I am not a fortune teller. I don't know what to tell you. We had an agreement. You remember that, right? I shook my head yes. I knew what she meant, and I didn't think she completely trusted me anyhow. I didn't blame her because I knew what type of man I was. Here I was, over the age of 35, with a perfect woman that seemed to be made from my very rib, and I didn't want to just have her. I still desired other women. I wanted the chance to continue to be a whore. The whore I've been since I could remember. She was perfect for me in all the wrong ways, and the very fact that she could be made for me scared me. So, we made an agreement. But arrangements can be broken, right? Janet sat her drink down and leaned back on the bed's headboard. This was nice, what you did. Her eyes traveled across the room, examining the ambience of love I had attempted to create. Thank you, baby. This night, well, this day was perfect. I do love you, Denham. You know that, right? Yes, baby, I know. Let's just keep it simple, okay? She grabbed her wine and took a huge swallow. I don't know why her words pierced me, but they did. It was as if I wanted her to tell me she only wanted me. I wanted her to say that she was ready to go to the next level so that we could build a life together. But she didn't. Instead, she said the same words I always professed. But oftentimes, I was torn. I could manage the thought of her being with another man as long as I had free rein to be with other women, and that is what we have been doing for months now. It would be a year soon, and we were still stuck in this limbo of, I love you, but not enough to only want you. Straight bullshit, if you ask me. but we were both stuck in our selfish desires. It was easy before I met her. Life was simple. I didn't want another relationship. I didn't want another friend. I really didn't want another woman. It was the mere fact that I still held on to my own freedom, my sense of I can do what the fuck I want and keep us in this space. I opened my mouth right now and I said, "Baby, I only want you." Would she even believe me? I was Denham Overton, a whore by blood, a man without bounds, a selfish man. No kids, no wife, no soul. I was a man who had loved once and fucked it over because I chose the desires of my dick more. And now, I sat across from the person I loved who shared my very same past. We couldn't trust each other. Or could we? Baby, I agree. Let's just enjoy tonight. Us, let's just do that. I stood up and marched into the bathroom and splashed water across my face. I saw her shrug her shoulders as I walked away, as if she was convincing herself she didn't care. I know she did though, because I did too. But my pride wouldn't let me say it. I walked back into the room and smiled at Janet. This way was fine. At least she was in my life. Let's eat, baby. She looked upwards at me and smiled. Good, because all this mushy shit has caused me to want to eat a whole cow. She scooted off the bed and I followed her into the dining area where we ate and talked all night. We enjoyed each other's company and we were the best of friends. Such good friends that we knew what wasn't being said. We had agreed to no strings, but the day we said hello, our strings became attached. She had become my lifeline, and I, hers. And welcome back, everybody. That was an excerpt from Tameka Newhouse's novel, The Words I Did Not Say. Now, Tameka, I have to say that you present in that clip some very complex characters in a very complex situation where you have this man who is internally feeling this deep love for this woman, but he's afraid of his own level of loving, which I find both refreshing and unique to look at it from a man who's afraid to love someone, because we always see the female protagonist willing to love, but however, your female protagonist has had a little bit of a role shift. You know, she's not necessarily. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, why did you set that up that way?
You're like, why? Like, why she not pressed to be with him, right? That's what normally, like, naturally, like, people think that women, grow up to want to be claimed, and that's not like our first thought or want in life is to be somebody's wife or to be somebody's girlfriend or even somebody's mother sometimes. And this is an example of how I write my female leads is. They don't have the I guess the thoughts or the thought behavior that women are supposed to want to love, or they want to be married, they want to be mothers. And Janet, who is my lead character, she is almost like the complete opposite of that. She almost is really like a mirror of Denham, which is the lead male character. They are one and the same. They are both loved before. They're both whores. They both want to love freely. They both want to control how they love each other. And nobody's really being open and genuine with one another. They're one and the same. And I wrote that because old women we're not always so quick to just say, okay, let's go together.
Yeah. You know, you said something in there. There was something in that clip that also stood out with me with your male character who actually admits that, he has been whoremongering, or he has been whorish, or he's been promiscuous. And,
Yeah.
it feels like there's a bit of regret in there, and which is like a different approach to a male character, because as you may or may not know, for a lot of men, that is, especially in pop culture, that is what you are taught, either directly or indirectly, or consciously or unconsciously, is that you want to be the man, the ladies' man. You want to be the man that goes out and can drive a woman crazy. And, that's kind of like where the mentality stops. And you don't think about all of the other emotional things that happen when you hook up with somebody. And to see that this person, this character, is developed to the point where they're looking at the situation like, man, here I am fighting with myself. I'm having this internal battle between being with the woman I love and trying to deal with the person that I am, and still trying to find where's the balance between trying to aspire to the man that I want to be while dealing with the man that I am. And that's a challenging space.
It is, and I wrote my characters where they struggle internally a lot more than externally within the story. And I wrote them like this because I wanted to show where they were somewhat taking accountability within this situation. Because we can lie to the people that we love all day, every day. And I want people to look at this a different way. When we really begin to know somebody and like someone, the idea is, to be together, to grow together, and let's build this partnership, et cetera, et cetera. But these two individuals fear doing that because of their own situations, their own fears, their own internal struggles that they're going with,
their own body counts.
Right, their own body counts. Like, they got their own thing going on. And they're not so eager to be like, you know what, let me go ahead and start some new things with you, with the potential of me messing it up again because of I'm used to doing this and I'm used to doing that. And I think that that's being responsible. That's loving, responsible for, in my opinion, being like saying, wait, hold on, wait a minute. Let me just, no, let me not do this. Even though, yes, I want it. Even though, yes, I love you. I don't think that, I want to do this just yet. I don't think I want to do this, do that either, because it could lead to this. I've been through this part before. So I think it has to also do with fear, but I don't think that it's all that bad sometimes. Sometimes people just lie and they pretend, and they have this baggage and these things that they bring into new situations and circumstances, and it ends up, making another toxic situation.
There's a line in there in the piece that we just heard, where there's a line that says, we loved each other, but not enough to only want to be with each other. That is a strong line. That is a strong sentence that I think that a lot of people today, in this social media activated, love you for 30 minutes and then dump you and then put all our business out on social media, may not really get that, that's a complex thing to really be in, to say that I am willing to give only so much of me to you, because whether I fear giving all of you to me, all of myself to you, or whatever the case may be, right now we are stuck, because the character says we are stuck in this particular space.
Yeah.
And some people just don't have the emotional intelligence, the skill set, the language, or whatever it may be to move a relationship forward. Because I think in relationships, there's one aspect that, that in human behavior, we have unmet expectations. In other words, or unexpressed expectations, I should say. Whereas we have
that too, yes.
Unexpressed expectations, where we expect people to get us without us telling them how to get us.
Exactly. And that's the biggest communication. It's always communication. And I think that the way to get around that, Earl, is that I think that relationships generally should start with being friends. And friendships really shouldn't have any rules. I shouldn't really ask you to change things about you because I don't like it. I think that when you find someone that you really can be yourself with, you can truly genuinely love. Like when you learn things about them, you love them in spite of, because they're not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect human being. Like when someone can truly be like, you know what,
Ooh,
I've done these
that's a big one
things,
right there.
right? Like loving them in spite of the bad, loving them in spite of their flaws or their shortcomings. Like we get so caught up in these, like you said, these unspoken expectations of what we expect in our mind, our brains, or what we want people to be and do, versus just loving them and actually getting just to know them. And I think friendships grow and evolve over time. I'm a person that doesn't even really like titles. I've never past
Mm-hmm.
being I married really young at 18, and when that marriage began to become toxic and dwindle quickly as it started, past that, I don't understand the need for titles or the need for expectations, uh, which is funny you stated that, because I don't in the beginning I don't know you, and I really truly won't know you for quite some time. And then we haven't argued, we haven't disagreed on something. Like I haven't discovered some things where I need to let me process this a little bit and then move around it if I choose to. Like we have to grow this companionship that it really there's levels to it, and it really starts with genuine friendships, like real genuine friendships, and then growing to it has to grow into the point where you're just together. Like it's just to the point like we together. Like you don't really want or desire anybody else. You're talking to them every day, and like you're getting to know each other. Like you spend time. It just is what it is. And then it will grow into we're together. Like this is what we're doing. You know, that's just my opinion.
So let me ask you this. Yeah, let me ask you this question. I think is going to be a very important one, and it's twofold. Do you feel that well, do you feel that people have a fear of being their true authentic self? And two, um, do you think people know how to do that introspective work to even get to know themselves? Because I sense that in the clip that we heard, we are dealing with two people who are almost internally afraid to let themselves go.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll ask that question again. Do you think that people fear being, not only in your fictional novel, but in real life, do you think that people fear being their authentic selves? And then the second part of that, do you think people really know how to do the introspective work to learn who they really are?
Yes. To answer the first part of the question, I feel like we definitely struggle a lot with that, and we lack the skills to even know how not necessarily to communicate it, because we have to understand where it comes from. And I think a lot of us get so caught up in our day to day, like we're adulting. Like we're going to handle our responsibilities. We're nurturing and teaching our children. We're nurturing and molding our romances with our spouses. And then we're trying to eat and go to sleep in between that. Like it's a lot of things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis when it comes to being an adult. But the one thing that we forget is the self-care. The spending the time with yourself and seizing those things that you like to do. This takes it back to being choosing your happiness. Takes it back to what I just stated about making sure that I'm happy. Like we get so caught, it's almost like we're robots, and we get so caught into these routines, and before we know it, years have passed by. We forgot about some of the things that we wanted to do. We forgot about the things that truly make us happy, because we're just so caught up within just the motion, just surviving for the most part, and we don't have those skill sets to convey and communicate the things that we want to tell our friends, our families, and our loved ones, because we haven't even taken the time to learn like, or the things that we don't like, or the reasons why you react a certain way, and they taking accountability within your own choices and within your own behavior. And I think that's really number one thing, Earl, is taking accountability. You first have to see that, hey, I'm not my best self. Let me make sure that I continue to grow to be my best self. Let me see how it is that people are receiving me. Let me see if I'm being like a good friend or a good lover, a good spouse, a good employee. Like we don't go to work and we'll make sure we'll perform the tasks that our employee are asking and requiring of us. And we go to courses and these required sessions that we have to do for our position to make sure that we're performing our very best. But we don't do that in real life. How? We don't do that with our friends and our family. Why? We don't do that in our marriages and our relationships. Who, when, why, what? So to mold those things and perfect those things and grow in that realm, but we'll do that for an employer, for someone else's business, for someone else's company. And me, I don't even understand or even comprehend that type of thinking. So because even me, my type of logic is definitely sometimes not even, it's not popular, my logic. When I am beginning to, to merge friendships with people or even date someone new, it's very important to me on how they treat themselves. It's very important if they are truly happy within themselves, because I want to know what type of air you bring into me. I want to know that you're making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do, and you're not coming to me in my world to making sure that I can help you get there. I don't want someone who is going to add weight to my journey. I want to make sure that, hey, we are equal.
That's
in
very
this,
important.
in this thing. Like, you good, I'm good, and we about to be good together.
Right. That you said two really positive, strong things there about what kind of energy that you bring to a situation, and you don't want somebody who is going to be a weight to you. And that's very important, because everybody has their history, everyone has their behaviors or quirks that they have not yet mastered, and as a person who is interested in someone, you have to be willing to accept, as you say, accept them for who they are, but also understand, do I want to get into this? Like, when you meet somebody, you have to really say, okay, who are you? Before I even lay down with you or anything like that, I need to know who you are, what you're about, and where you're going. And, have you done any work on?
Yeah, and if you're pulling your, like, people, like, you have to pull your, it's a partnership. And you have to really pull your weight mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. I think when you are your very best self, you want to be matched with your very best self. And even to myself, even now in my space, if I'm dating and things like that, I'm trying to make sure that I'm in my great space before I merge with anybody else. And this is why I am purposefully single in my own space in real life, because I'm just enjoying getting to know myself and doing the things that I like and being a stronger Tameka.
Yes.
So that when I do find or merge with somebody else, I don't want them to complain about my baggage, or I don't want to be bringing some extra stuff to their world, like, because I don't want that brought to me. So I'm trying to be the very person that I would want.
You don't want to carry the old.
And I think people lack that. I think people don't do that.
You don't want to bring the old Tameka into a new situation. I totally get that. Right. And so I think also, again, going back to your novel, The Words I Didn't Say, I think, again, this is one of the reasons people enjoy reading, readers enjoy reading, because, again, they get to look at, how do I say, sometimes people can look at someone else's situation and understand it a lot better than if someone were to tell them about themselves directly. And I think as a reader, as a person who's seeking knowledge, when you're out there reading a book or taking time to read an author's words, because when you read an author's words, you're inviting them into your mental space. You're inviting them into your psychological space. You're making space for that author to come into your mind and give you suggestions or perspectives or ideas. And relationships are probably one of the hardest things to not only build, but maintain, because all relationships are going to have their potholes. And the idea is, like, can you hit a pothole and keep on going? Or if you hit that pothole, does a whole front end fall off? And so, and I think that happens a lot in relationships. And one other thing I want to touch on that I don't think, and I'm going to say this because I don't think men really get this. And I always like to say, if you're a man who is promiscuous and you're going around, being the player, being the ladies' man, or whatever the case may be, understand that you are plugging in to someone else. You are physically plugging yourself into this other individual's energy, their history, their rhythms, their soul. It is not just a physical act for you to reach an end goal. When you merge as one, that changes everything, because now you are literally exchanging energies. And I think men get get lost when they don't understand, why she's, why she's, showing up and getting angry at you and cursing you out or causing a scene because, you have shared energy and that energy meant something to her other than I'm just a ladies' man moving from one woman to the next. No. You, just as women have to be mindful of their body count as our society, teaches them on, whatever, men have to be just as aware of their body count. And that's what I want to say about that. Just because you have a lot of bodies up under you doesn't make you a man.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I think within the characters, they really struggle with not much so the body count number, but the fact that it was the fact that they could do it, being able to control the fact that they could do what they wanted when they wanted, and not being accountable for that. And I think that if they would have just had some conversation and whatever, and there's so many different ways to look at romances and relationships these days. And what worked within this relationship may not work in this next relationship. And what should be between those two should be between those two. But I think what lacked in this relationship within these characters is the communication. If they would have had a conversation, they would have not known how far they could have grown together, or the things they could have done together, or the different choices and decisions and things they could have made. Or they could have realized the things that they probably didn't want these things anymore. I mean, you never know the things that you could discover if you just talk, if you just communicate, and you just freely talk. In my headspace in real life, if I cannot tell you how I truly feel, if I cannot express to you some of my deepest pains and my struggles, to kind of help steer me from that, or even so that I can help, understand that means you're not my friend. That means I cannot trust you with this information, or I may feel that you may judge me, or it may alter our circumstances. It has to be to the point where you can really be yourself with that person that you love. Like, you should be able to tell them anything. And they should be able to understand you and love you and work through those things. It really should get to that point.
And I think also is, as a emotionally developed person, understanding how to use the language to tell somebody something that you need to tell them, because not everybody has the language. And then also understanding, if you're telling somebody something that you want, if you're being vulnerable and you're telling them something about you that you don't want repeated, there's a level of trust there. But also the flip side of that is when you have to tell someone about themselves. Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to do that without causing a war?
I've asked actually because it has to be coming from someone that not only you respect and love, but you value the things that they say. Like, it should always come within love. And also, communication is a two-way thing. This is why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Like, you're supposed to listen more than you're supposed to speak. So when you're processing what's being said to you, people often internalize that and make it about them and how it's affecting them, or why you're saying this to me, and not really just listening to this person and what it is that they're telling them and what they're struggling with, or what they need advice with, or what it is they want to just let loose or let free of. And I think that is one of the most important parts of communication, is listening to them and not making it about yourself.
Yes, I agree. Wow, Tameka, we could just go on and on, keep on talking. Dude.
So many things you could talk about in that dynamic.
There's so many things that we can talk about. However, let readers, or let the listeners know where they can find you, where they can order your multiple books, but specifically the words that I did not say, because our conversation has been centered around some of the things that the characters are experiencing in this book. And how would listeners get in contact with you if they wanted to find out more about you?
Yeah, so if you want to dive a little bit more into the words I didn't say, Amazon, Barnes & Noble is my personal website, which is TamekaNewhouse.com. And Newhouse is spelled like I bought a new house. So Tamika Newhouse, Newhouse, and that's Tameka Newhouse on Instagram, Twitter, as well as Facebook. And that's where you can find me. Now, I do travel a lot. I will be like in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte, Detroit, and then I'm planning my my overseas tour that I'm going to be doing in 2020. So it's a lot of things that it's going to be developing. I'm also coming out with a podcast called Traces of Mika that will be streaming this summer. And that is
congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you. It's more of a reality series and it's told through conversations with myself and friends and family, ex-loves, my children. And it's called Traces of Mika because it's traces of my actual self and diving more so internally into who I am as a creator and as a woman and as a mother and as a friend. So Traces of Mika is streaming this summer. I'm writing on Sugar Hill, which will release this fall, which is my 17th romance novel. And we are having a short film with the same name, Sugar Hill, that we'll be releasing this year as well. And there's a lot of things that I'm going to be releasing a short series, web series that we release on my social media accounts. That'll be streaming this summer as well. I'm going to be doing more so for the artistry. So for myself as an artist. So Tameka Newhouse as the artist is stepping back out there.
Yeah, Tameka, you are a multifaceted, a multi-talented creative with multiple interest areas and multiple things happening, to further, to further your position in this world, to let people know about this life that you're leading, this wonderful journey of humanity that you're experiencing as a spiritual being, having a human experience. And we thank you here for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Earl. I had a great time. Great conversation.